There's not very many times on this fine program when Seth Keysor and Nate Taylor are without their leader in Joshua Briscoe. And so Josh currently is okay. I want to put that out there. We always have to make sure that we put that out there. Josh is okay. Josh will be back on Tuesday. No worries. So I thought, what better time for me to step up and assume the role of leader of the podcast as you guys embark on this for maybe the first time ever. I think the first time ever that Joshua Briscoe has ever missed a podcast in his whole entire life. I had to pick up the sword and take Josh's place.
Man, that is awesome, Tucker. I'm so excited to follow your leadership. Nate, did you catch the end of the French Open?
Oh, yes. Yes, I did, Seth.
What even happened? And why is the French Open different?
For so many reasons, Seth. Look, I called it, ladies and gentlemen. So please continue to come back for more tennis coverage here on Only Weird Games, because I did pick Coco Gauff and Carlos Alcaraz to win the French Open, Roland Garros. They did. And look, tennis is so crazy now. They're not even playing on clay anymore, Seth. We've completely blown over to the grass court season. Getting ready for Wimbledon, where my child was conceived.
That is so interesting. You know who wasn't conceived? Jesus.
I don't know if I can actually do that. I'm sorry. I can't do it.
What?
He's gone.
So that was short-lived. I don't know. I guess, Tucker, the limelight got a little bright. We've all been there before.
Sure.
Yeah, so Tucker, if you're unaware, Jesus was not conceived the way you and I was conceived, okay? And that too for the audience. I know that may seem hard to believe, but believe me,
I do.
Jesus Christ was not conceived sexually?
Oh, good Lord.
More spiritually. Okay, now, welcome to Only Weird Games. I'm Nate Taylor. That's Seth Keysor. As we mentioned, Josh Briscoe is somewhere where it's sunny, and he is, I'm hoping, not listening to this show right now, or will never listen to this show, because he's supposed to be on vacation. I want to prove to the audience today, this is my one goal, ladies and gentlemen, for this episode of Only Weird Games. We're not going to really talk about tennis anymore. Okay, I already got off my chest. Hey, every now and then, the clock strikes twice on the correct time. And I've already celebrated, as people have said, quite generously on my tennis predictions. So no more tennis after this. But my one goal today is to explain to you why we've never done an episode with Josh before. Because you're going to hear it. And it's not going to go great, all right? So
I could not be more excited for how badly this is going to go.
Yeah. So normally, Josh at this point would lead us into some benign, silly, audacious tangent. Seth, you did mention the word Costco before we hit the live button, and I don't know, man. I had to get diapers today at Costco, and only diapers. And those mother bleepers kept offering me samples. And don't you want this discount? And don't you want this free candy? And why, oh God, are the diapers in the farthest back corner from where I entered? Now, because I was on a time schedule, I only bought diapers, Seth. And I feel like that is a small miracle in today's society.
Well done, you. That is a small miracle. One thing that doesn't change over the years, you are, because I am the elder statesman of Only Weird Games, which if anyone's wondering why Nate is hosting today and not me, it's because we had a Thunderdome contest.
Mm-hmm.
Nate emerged victorious. Turns out those hands are made for more than typing. They're made for throwing too. And I left bloodied and bowed, and submitting to our new overlord Nathaniel. Because we both knew that Tucker wasn't going to be able to hang. This is actually something we know. I just realized I don't have the lights on in here. Oh, well. So,
okay. You look great.
The sun went away, and I was like, what? So, I'm here live from Armageddon up in Minnesota.
You look great.
Thank you. But this is going to, like, I was going to just say, as the elder statesman, one thing I really don't miss about my kids being young is the way diapers make your bank account it's unbelievable. Especially like, because everyone's like, you watch commercials where they're like, hey, you need Pampers. It's like, what am I, Rockefeller? You think I can afford Pampers? I can't afford Pampers. I don't know I bet you Pat and Brittany Mahomes don't buy Pampers. They're like, no, this is ridiculous. What's the next one down? Oh, no, that's too much too. And it's insane.
Yeah. Hey, on vacation, my wife was like, why don't we get them some splashers? You know, the ones where you can put them in the water. Guess how many times we use splashers, ladies and gentlemen? It starts with a 0 and ends with a 0. Okay,
it's always
they
a great
still
idea.
Got my money.
It's always a great idea. Hey, let's get some splashers because you know what our newborn
is gonna splash in the pool.
Yeah, with zero context being thrown in a body of water to that kid's the size of Lake Superior. Hey, kid, think you're gonna die? Woo! And newborn's like, what is happening?
Well, yeah.
It's good stuff.
He saw his feet. Noah saw his feet in the water and said, you for real about this? You for real? You're gonna hold me, right? Yes, we're gonna hold you. So didn't use splashers, but ball splashers. Obviously paid an enormous amount of money that is quote unquote affordable for Costco. Yes, and I know before we get to the Chiefs, I do love the idea that somebody over here asked me, I think it was Nikki Ew, why are there things on shelves over my head? Who's got a ladder? Not me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a perfect cult. Store. It's a perfect store.
I for one welcome our Costco overlords.
Spiritually.
Kent Swanson's going to drop into this podcast and try to take control, and then, we'll chase him off in no time. That's one thing we have learned over the years, and I think Josh may have missed one years ago.
Maybe.
Well, when he
remember when Only Weird Games began, yeah.
Well, but it might have been, remember when he did the whole thing where I'm going to make my pancreas stop working so everyone pays attention to me. Man, that's not nearly as funny when he's not here, by the way.
That was I remember that. That was 2021. I was a little worried about our friend.
Yeah, no, just so people are aware, because I'm saying this out here, and he's not here, so I can say this. I cried.
We all did. Yeah.
Oh, I was sitting there with Jazz, and I was just crying. I was like, maybe I should drive down to Kansas City. And Jazz was like, no, that's insane because he's at the hospital, and that's insane.
Right.
And I was like,
and they wouldn't, and again, because of COVID restrictions, I remember they wouldn't even let us in. I remember Renee was our intrepid reporter and messenger on the back and forth of Josh's conditions. So look, at least we're starting off on a much better foot, I guess.
Yeah, we're not sitting here so Josh was fine, and we're going to talk about football.
Yeah, I guess we could try to do this. Then we never did it again. So, listen, ladies and gentlemen, we have legitimate Chiefs news. This is the only week, post the draft that is actually newsworthy before we must bow our heads and say our prayers before we once again go to lovely St. Joseph, Missouri, for Missouri State University for another long and treacherous and grueling training camp. So
I badly misread the vibe there.
Oh yeah, thank you. St. Joseph's calling my name, and it's less than a month away.
Oh, it's going to be beautiful. But we have news. There's actual things that happened this week.
Yes, we have legitimate news with a month to go before training camp. So we are going to treat this episode with the dignity it deserves, which means, Seth, no one from this recording moving forward will do anything stupid, not in the Kansas City Chiefs training facility for the next month before they pack their beloved things and go north to St. Joseph, where they will drive the speed limit.
Yes.
Be courteous.
Yes.
Be kind. Be
yes.
civil.
Mm-hmm.
And get ready for the 2025 season, okay?
That's
so with that in mind, before nothing happens in the next month, the Chiefs had some pretty interesting practices over the last few days. I know I missed Tuesday's show. I know you guys talked about the amazing arrival of Trey Smith.
Yes.
The fact that he didn't even take my advice. In fact, as Chris Jones said yesterday, thank God he didn't do what I did, because I lost all that money, and he's a smart man, and he's gonna do just fine financially. And I mean that, kids, in more ways than one.
Wait a minute.
With the practices today, and even with Jalen Moore somewhat.
So we're skipping ahead to pre-camp O-line vibe check.
Yeah, I don't know if it's hey guys, he's limited, because he's Jalen Moore. And I mean, we gave him a 2-year we kind of gave him a 2-year prove-it deal. We can get out of it next year if things go sour. I mean, but Seth, I mean, apparently season ticket holders got a glimpse of the future. A Mr. Joshua Simmons, rookie at left tackle, and alongside him, former second-round pick Kingsley Suamataia at left guard. And because of this, we now have vibes about where this training camp may actually go, and I'm fascinated to understand, are you excited that the Chiefs publicly this week made it very clear to us, and as we make it very clear to the audience, want us to believe that there's a real competition at left tackle once again?
I desperately hope that they mean it this time.
You do?
I do. Well, here's the long and short of it. Because we're going to talk about, so I reviewed every left guard snap Kingsley Suamataia took in week 18, which didn't take long, by the way. It was 31 snaps. And so I'm going to talk about that shortly.
Right.
But with Kingsley Suamataia, you can't tell his story of the 2024 season without being they didn't have a plan B. They said, hey, rookie, who fell to the second round, and not because of health like Simmons.
Right, and had limited experience at left tackle at a Power 5 conference school, but did they play anybody?
And and again, really traitsy guy. Man, are his arms 34 1/4 inches, weighs 325 pounds. He's not quite 6'5", but...
Did you know he came from the same bloodline as Penei Sewell?
Oh, they're related, and
look,
and all the traits were there. I get why they took a swing on Kingsley. I'll talk about his film. He is a guy. He's got upper body power and lower body power. He's got good athleticism. He's got good size. Got good length. Those guys are hard to find. Those are hard guys to find. And outside the first 2 rounds of the draft, you almost never can. Unless their tape is just complete doo-doo in college. I mean, that's just how that works. So, no, I'm not going back to Kingsley, I swear. Oh, man, Tucker's just good Lord. Thank you, Tucker. So the story with Kingsley Suamataia that I always open up with is he was thrown in there. He's the heir apparent. He's going to play left tackle. Donovan Smith was fine last year. Not great, but it was good enough. Let's just go in there. They had no plan B. And then, and I don't know if this was because they were in the three-peat effort or whatever, or if it was just that bad, although it was really bad. He got turned inside out by Trey Hendrickson after a tough, people don't talk enough about, because I think everyone was trying to be optimistic. I wrote about Suamataia's film after the first week, and I was like, fellas, I don't know. He had some struggles. He had some flashes. But it wasn't consistent. And then Hendrickson just eviscerated him.
It took Trey Hendrickson a 1.5 to realize, I should just run through his chest over and over again.
And he can't stop me.
Right.
And there's reasons for that we can talk about with regards to his film. But then he got pulled immediately. And
which is very against Andy Reid's tradition, which is why it was even so jarring in September for them to go to Wanya Morris, who again was dealing with his own injuries in training camp. He was not drafted the year prior to be the starting left tackle. So to your point, Seth, they really didn't have a plan. And then all of a sudden they pulled the ripcord at a extremely like blistering pace for any substitution of that nature in an Andy Reid era with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Absolutely. And then the problem they created for themselves is that they couldn't really they couldn't really throw him right back out there, right? Like they couldn't just, because then if you throw him back out there, well, by God, you got to keep him out there now, or you are about to permanently destroy this young man's mind. And T. Smith asked a great question in the comments. If they weren't going for a three-peat, would they have handled it the same? I don't know. They did a lot of things a little bit different. There's no way they trade for Hopkins.
Honestly,
they're not going for a three-peat.
Yeah, honestly, no. And then I feel like to T. Smith's question, I think the answer is no. But you also have to factor in how bad things got at receiver by week 4.
Ugh.
So they were also the struggles compounded on themselves, or the issues I should say compounded before you even got to like week 6. Then they had to make a trade because they had no viable receiver. So they trade for DeAndre Hopkins. They did things that they normally would not do, a la re-sign Kareem Hunt out of nowhere. Because guess what, kids? They also didn't have a backup running back.
There's nothing wrong with being optimistic, but sometimes, and it's so funny, Jazz and I get into arguments about this occasionally because her version of things is that she's optimistic. My version of things is that she expects things to just work out because she's incredibly beautiful, and so they have her whole life. That's not the only reason they've worked out. They've also worked out because she's smart. Be nice. She's smart. She works out. But that must be awesome. It must honestly
be great.
Although she did get a speeding ticket yesterday.
What?
Yeah, I was just
okay, let me ask a question that everybody's asking. Was this a lady cop who just said?
It was not.
Oh,
I know. It happened in my old stomping grounds too. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, father time, huh? No, I didn't say that. Good Lord.
Couldn't even give him a couple blinks. Like, come on, man. Come on.
Don't bat those eyelashes a little. You could
have
done
little?
That. Anyway, so they didn't have the plan there. And that's, for me, I want them to have an actual legitimate competition. One thing we know about Jalen Moore is he's played approximately 12 NFL games over the course of 4 years. Last year, he started in 4 straight after playing quite a few snaps, another one, all at left tackle. And then actually, he played decently. He was average to above average. You know that you can, or you at least you can theorize that you can get that out of him in your system.
Yes.
I want a real competition there. My understanding, maybe Donovan Smith wasn't fully healthy, wasn't ready to go. That's what I think everyone wanted last year was them to find anything at left tackle that doesn't make the floor drop out. Now, one could say that's what Jalen Moore is. And so for me, by God, this better be an actual competition. And then in the meantime, make right tackle a competition too. Now, people, the odds of Jawan Taylor losing that spot to Jalen Moore, I don't think are as high as people think. Yeah.
Zilch. I mean, hey, why haven't we seen Jawan Taylor this offseason? Let me tell you why, kids. He ain't got nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
he got anything to worry about.
And Moore and Simmons have both played on the right side, so I understand why people are asking. But the Chiefs like Jawan Taylor better than your average Chiefs fan, although I will say the penalties have to make Andy crazy. Like,
it doesn't help.
So the big thing is, with Jalen Moore, the person who was probably the most bummed when Simmons got drafted was Jalen Moore. This was his chance to show he can be a starting left tackle in this league. And here's the deal, though. I don't know if rookie Josh Simmons, if it's a legit competition.
Here we go.
If he beats out Moore.
Correct.
And we just don't know. And that's what you said. Like, the Chiefs are trying to convince us. No, it really is a competition this time, guys.
But is it?
Is it, though? Is it? And that's where this absolutely has to be a decision that's made by Andy Reid and Andy Heck, with the front office saying jack and squat about it.
Well,
great. You drafted him in the first round. We didn't even know if he'd be healthy this year.
Correct. Right. I mean, I want people to understand this. If, regardless of what happens at training camp, which again, we don't know, because now there's real intrigue about, hey, Joshua Simmons has done more than the Chiefs expected at this point and more than what anyone in the pre-draft process expected on checks the date June 19th of 2025. Okay.
Yes.
No one thought he'd be progressing this well, this fast, on the night of the draft, basically on night one. So with that in mind, if Josh Simmons is in uniform on opening night in Sao Paulo against the Los Angeles Chargers, and I just say he's just in uniform, didn't say he was going to start, Seth, just in uniform. If he's in uniform, it is a miraculous success story. And that's before we know if he's a starter or not. If he's ready to go up against Khalil Mack, on opening night as an NFL rookie, which is, a pretty tall task when you consider that Kingsley Suamataia went against not a great defensive line for the Baltimore Ravens, but still a competent one, right? And then the challenge got much harder a week later against the Cincinnati Bengals because they actually had two defensive ends that you really had to account for. And of course, as we all know, Andy Reid says, "You want a chip for who? For what?" I'm sorry, it's called being on an island. And
we run routes here. We don't.
Yeah, we 5 out, right? 5 out. And hey, 7-step drop a couple times too. Like, no.
Go seriously. It is instructive if you want to know what the Chiefs wanted to do last year. Check out Cincinnati and how badly a lot of it went. And there were a lot of things that went badly. Mahomes made a couple throws he shouldn't have. Worthy had a rough play on the ball. Kingsley just got destroyed. But they wanted to. That was, I think, them in Baltimore was going to be like, oh, this year's going to be different. Well, then Mahomes threw 2 picks against the Bengals. Correct. It was just tough. So bad. I'm curious. I think also the fact that Kingsley Suamataia, that's the one that I don't think is a legit competition.
Really?
To be fair, I don't think it is. So can I check out this transition, my friend? We're doing this without Briscoe. Kingsley Suamataia he didn't even start because they were letting Joe Thuney play some snaps. Suamataia only played 31 snaps in that debacle against the Broncos, right? One game, too small a sample size. Remember when we were all psyched about Suamataia at left tackle because of a small sample size? He played well in preseason last year.
He did. He did play well preseason.
Yep. But here's what I will say. Those 31 snaps, that one game, which, there are games where you play 70 snaps. Like, the offense was getting destroyed, so to even call it half a game is like, But in those 31 snaps against one of the best 3 interior pass rushers in the league.
Yes, sir.
Who he was on an island against on more than one snap. And by the way, if you decide to go rewatch that game, you're going to watch the first snap, like to see Suamataia. You're going to watch the snap and you're going to be like, no, because it's bad. Allen just eats his lunch the first snap. But that was one of only 2 pure pass rush losses that I charted for him. In a game where you're playing a good defensive line,
by the way, the Broncos had to win that game, just to remind people, to get into the playoffs. So they had all the incentive to play well and to play their starters throughout the duration of the game until it obviously got out of hand.
Yes, and they got out of hand pretty quick. It was 21 zip real fast, and that's a nightmare scenario for an offensive lineman because it means he has like 4 run blocking snaps throughout the game. Like, they weren't even trying to run the ball. They're like, oh, good Lord. And then also, CJ Hansen had a rough game. But here's what I would say. Here's the hot take, I guess.
Okay. Clip it, Tucker.
Suamataia's Week 18 performance on film was better than any games Mike Caliendo played last year. Now, Caliendo had some struggles. I appreciate he came in, got thrown in, had to replace a Chiefs legend in Joe Thuney. That's just the truth. When you take into account situation and quality of opponent, all that.
So let me get this right. You're telling me that the Chiefs want us to believe that there's competition at left tackle and at left guard, but in reality, based on, I don't know, draft pick compensation, the amount of the amount of resources, the amount of assets, the upside of one player potentially over another who may have already maxed out his, let's just say, his athletic ability. Are you saying they're giving us a licky-loo?
A little bit. I think. Now, I think with Andy, if it's your job to lose, you can lose it. You sure can. You go into training camp once the pads come out, and let's say Caliendo is clearly better than Suamataia, not out of the realm of possibility at all, then I don't think they're going to go through what they went through last year. But I will say, reviewing that film, it's official. I'm ready to be hurt again.
Oh,
I'm ready for Kingsley Suamataia to break my heart. So here's the thing. Watch the first snap. And really specifically, watch his hands and feet. Watch the way that he tries to take kind of an aggressive set, moving in towards Allen to, not get bull rush, because he had guys running through his chest when he played left tackle, right? Well, actually, he really struggled to protect the edge, and we can come back to that. He couldn't stop guys from cornering around him. It was a real problem. But
Nick Benito likes to say hello and goodbye.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. Fortunately, he didn't have to. But that's the thing. When you're a left guard, you know who you don't have to block? Nick Benito screaming off the edge like a psychopath. So the thing for Suamataia, first snap, he takes a pretty aggressive set, tries to get the jump on Allen. And Allen, okay, nice job, rookie. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go to your outside shoulder, which would be the B gap, right?
Yep.
And as soon as you take this aggressive set, I'm going to swat those hands aside and go inside, and you're going to have your head out over your feet. You're going to lose your bounce, and I'm going to go by you just like Chris Jones does to guys 5 times a game. That's exactly what happened. He hit Carson Wentz. It was an ugly loss, an ugly hit given up. Very next snap. So you're going to want to turn it off when you see that. Go watch the very next snap and watch Kingsley's hands and feet that snap. Because what Allen tries to do is a similar thing, but a different direction, in that he feints inside to go out. Yeah. And what he's hoping is the same thing. Rookie, you're gonna try to punch early again. I'm gonna swat those hands. You're gonna stumble forward. Except this time, Suamataia, straight up, baby, straight up. Your head's not way far out. You're not punching. And where are your hands? Oh, they're right back here.
Yeah,
you don't need to punch. He's just dancing. You don't need to punch while he's dancing. You just wait. And he waits, and he records a win against Allen.
Who by the way, was a maniac in pass rush win rate, guys.
Oh, my goodness.
Maniac.
Who, by the way, 2 years ago, when the Chiefs needed another pass rusher, and he was available for not terribly expensive for how good he is, yep. I wrote that they should sign him because I know ball, but whatever.
Hey, they signed Jerry Tillery this year, hoping for similar, I guess, production.
And the thing with Allen is he was a 34 DE. You could line him up off the tackle, too, a little bit. Mm-hmm. I mean, he would have fit perfectly, but whatever. No one listens to me. That's fine. So here's the thing. The rest of the game, what I noticed with Suamataia, his athleticism shows up in terms of lateral agility. He was hardly run blocking at all. He just, I will, again, because we're extrapolating here. He played a solid game against Allen, against their other interior linemen. He played a solid game. He gave up the one hit. There was another play where technically you could call it a pressure, but he essentially ended up getting run into by one of his own guys. So, you just start to get tipped backwards. Not a whole lot you can do. There's another one where technically Allen got a pressure on Wentz, but on that snap, Suamataia held up the block for a full 5 seconds. But then there's chaos. If you hold up for 5 seconds against Zach Allen, you did your job. I guarantee you Andy Heck didn't give him any crap about that rep.
Correct. That's
just not how that works. It was a solid game overall,
and
I'm ready to be hurt again.
It was just one. Now,
barely one. It was more like half.
Right. Now he's got. Let me be your number 2. To defend Kingsley Suamataia. Now, it's one game, but hey, it's a good one game. All right. Now he's had a full off season to have a full transition at left guard. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone will tell you, if you can't kick it at left tackle, baby, you're a left guard, okay? So this is a natural progression. The Chiefs have liked what they've seen so far. And he went through a similar situation in college where, yes, he started out at Oregon, but found a home at BYU, got comfortable over time, showed an ability to get better over time. Which leads me to this question, Mr. Seth Keysor. If you're the Chiefs, do you, A, play the responsible offensive line on opening night against the Chargers? And that includes, ladies and gentlemen, Jalen Moore and Jawan Taylor with Kingsley, we assume, at left guard. Or do you potentially choose the lineup with the most potential upside on opening night with Simmons, Suamataia, and Jawan Taylor, knowing that if that group gels sooner rather than later, oh, buddy, we could have something by Halloween, but you might have to go through some rough patches in September, October. Seth, a month before training camp, what you picking?
I would absolutely have to.
Let's go to break.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story, like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Folks, it's playoff time, and if you're still just watching the games, then you're missing out. With Pick 6 from DraftKings, you can turn your hoops knowledge into real cash. Just make your picks, track your score, and if you hit all 6, you're looking at bigger payouts than Prize Picks flex plays. Nobody's dropping better payouts than Pick 6. Hit 6 picks, and that's 25 times your cash. And if you beat your competition, you could be looking at a 500 times bag in your pocket. And right now, new customers can get $50 in bonus picks with just a $5 entry. Here's what you got to do. The playoffs are on, so why not take a shot at making a little money while you're watching? Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app right now and use code KCSN. That's code KCSN to play $5 and get $50 in bonus picks. Better payouts, bigger wins, only on Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdictions. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 bonus picks that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. Terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Golly, that's a beautiful ad read. Every time.
Every time.
I'm sorry. I just can't get past it. How we sit here and we do this show. And then Tucker does an ad read. And I'm like, man, we're not good at our jobs.
That's your takeaway?
Well, he's just so much better. Like, he's so great. I just makes me feel inadequate. So, Nate, I am curious. One less. I know you want to talk about Travis Kelce. I'm curious. So you seem skeptical that it's a legitimate competition between Jalen Moore and Josh Simmons. I suppose you did ask me a question. Well done, by the way, getting me. Nicely done.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, you got to carry the tradition on. If it were me,
yeah,
and I'm Andy Reid, I am making the decision who to start opening night purely based on who's playing better in practice. That's it. That's it. Don't talk to me about upside.
He gave a reasonable answer.
We saw what happened last year. I get it. But if you're not going to, like with Suamataia, it's like, oh, we'll get him in there, trial by fire. It's not a trial by fire. If the second he gets burned a little bit, you throw him into the ocean. That's not a trial by fire. And so I'm looking for them to just really go with who is our best five. And if someone else
Andy Heck.
And if someone else is outplaying, and if that changes over the course of the year, if Simmons, grows as the year goes, guys know.
Sure.
That's hard to do, but it's better than going through the insanity that they went through last year. Give me the guy who's playing better in September to play in September. And if I think someone else is better in December, I'll play that dude.
Okay. Sure, coach. So let's get to Travis Kelce because we're doing it again, kids. Now look, I know Anita, which we should always do. Shout out to Anita. I know she sent us via the Twitter. I'm still calling it Twitter, I guess. Hey, Trey Smith gonna be on the next New Heights. That seems like a lovely time for a promotional. Hey, you getting that money? Which, look, quick side note. If you show up to mandatory mini camp, y'all have things in particular parameters. And hey, you show me some good faith. I show you some good faith. I want to be here. I'm not going anywhere. You know this. I know this. I'm going to be on Travis's podcast. I'm just saying you might have a conversation or two while also being at mandatory minicamp for practices, while also maybe recording a podcast with the elder statesman of the absolute franchise. So Travis Kelce said yesterday, Seth, that he doesn't know if this is his last season.
I thought that was interesting. You can
doesn't
tell
want to lean in. Not yet. Not ready to lean in to. I'm not going to say the last dance or the last ride. Not willing to lean into whatever he wants to call it.
Mm-hmm.
What would you call it, Seth? Because let me tell you something right now. I don't think he's going to play in 2026.
I don't think he is either. I think that Travis Kelce is an interesting guy in that the more you hear him talk, for one thing, and I could be completely wrong about this, okay? And this is all, I hate psychoanalyzing people I don't know, but I'm going to do it anyway. Dude. I'm willing to bet that there are a lot of people that feel like they know Travis Kelce really well, but they don't. He's a guy who's really willing to come to this level with a ton of people, but not a lot of people come to this level with him.
Correct.
And that's fine. I know a lot of people that way, and that's a perfectly safe way to live. I think that he comes across like, I was actually just re-listened to the Mahomes episode of New Heights because it's a good listen. And Mahomes was ribbing about, you are the worst planner in the world. He comes across like a guy who doesn't really think anything through at all, but you don't become as great as he is at football without being really intentional with a lot of things. And I think you can see how he's handled the craziness of everything with his relationship and stuff, that you can see an intentionality. He's clearly a really smart guy. I would say he hasn't always come across the most responsible. He's a smart guy who's also emotional. So if you're like talking like a decision in the moment, he might do something that's emotional rather than thought through. Something like this, it's a thoughtful thing. And I think he's a guy that would sit down and say, I really believe this. This isn't, everyone loves to do fan fiction with their favorite players. Travis Kelce, absolutely. When you hear how him and Jason talk about even doing the podcast while they were playing, Jason's approach to retirement, all that stuff. I've heard him say the phrase, he doesn't want to be a distraction. I think he's a guy that's like, if I do this as like this last dance thing, there's a chance that that's going to take up attention, everything we do. That would be my guess.
There's validity to that.
And that's, again, there's limited value to psychoanalyzing people, but when you're dealing with someone who has been a really good teammate, Occam's razor says, well, why would he say this? Well, it's either he really isn't sure if he wants to hang him up yet.
Right.
Which I think there's probably certainly truth in that. But there's also, he's actively said he doesn't want to be a distraction.
Correct.
He's actively said that. So I assume because he said that, he would try to take actions to not be a distraction.
Yeah, you could be two things or three, honestly. We as human beings are complex. So he loves the spotlight. Let's make that very clear. Travis Kelce loves the spotlight. And it's very endearing that he can love the spotlight and yet perform at that high of a level, given the demands that the franchise has really put on him since he became a true star in the league. Well, also, exactly to your point, Seth, he understands how good of teammates he had before he became a star, most notably Alex Smith, Derek Johnson, Tom Bahali. Those are guys that gave him quite a bit of a template on how to handle things when you know that you're closer to the end than you are the beginning, and also trying to be a team leader about the team moving forward in a certain direction, not only to be in unison with Andy and the coaching staff, but obviously to do what's best for the team to obviously compete at a high level. He went through some maturity issues with that, which he will obviously tell you in great detail, but now he's seen what it's like to be a leader and understands how much his voice and his presence honestly carries for the entire organization. All that to say, the third piece of this is, and I think the reason why I wanted to bring this up is, he might not be willing to lean into it, even though he probably knows it's more of a reality than he would like to admit, that this might be his last season, that this will likely be his last season. Mm-hmm. But the third point is, he is under no pressure to feel like he's on the last dance. Because I want to remind people from a contextual standpoint and from a historical standpoint too, the general manager of the Chicago Bulls said, we could go 82-0. Phil Jackson will not be here next season, which means if Phil ain't going to be here, why would I be here? If you're Michael Jordan, of course. So there's a slight difference. There will always be the complicated thought process of, if they beat the Philadelphia Eagles, I don't think we hear Travis Kelce this week. Not in a Chiefs facility, not in a backdrop with the Chiefs logo on it. And so it's a fascinating pivot point in his own career, which is already fascinating enough. But had they three-peated, had there not been so many injuries, had he played a better game, which he, I thought, interestingly said, and I think this is his last chance to really put it out there, guys, I played awful, and I'm okay admitting it 5 months later. Like, how awful I played, how bad we all played. But of course, the team kind of goes the way I go, which is why Joshua Briscoe has always said, very sage wisdom, establish the Kelce. They never did that in the first quarter of the game, and it only got worse. He is not under pressure from the organization to feel like he's on the last dance, the last ride, whatever you want to call it. Mahomes, I thought, definitely handled questions yesterday, saying, I never brought it up, but clearly we hugged it out like it might be over. And hey, thank God it wasn't a hug out like it's over. He's back, you know. There's a story of Rashee Rice pushing Travis to come back, to say, hey, man, my last game with you can't be on an interception where the quarterback took my knee out for the year. That cannot be the last play I take with you on the field as teammates. So it's a pivotal point in Travis's career. But I wonder, is he okay surrendering some of the spotlight for the betterment of the team, knowing he might be under an unusual microscope, given that this is probably his last year and that even he himself acknowledges, yeah, I ain't really got a contract next year, do I? And
right.
They might not want to give me one next year because I'm going to be a year older.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, yeah, he's in a really, really unique situation. To be fair, he's always been a really, really unique player. I think some of it, I mean, we'll just see how the year goes. He apparently, and I haven't watched it, I've just seen tweets about it. He referenced that he didn't do a good enough job getting open last year. Last year, we talked about this, was the first year. Yeah, he slowed down. We've talked about this a million times. He slowed down in 2022.
30, whatever,
yeah.
Man.
He slowed down in 2022, but he was still able to get open against man coverage consistently, easily. So he could line him up as the X if you wanted to. Last year was one of the first times, and again, for the second year in a row, they put an ungodly burden on him. And this year, or last year, it was the first time where it just didn't seem like he could maybe flip the switch on and off quite as easily. And that's how it comes for you, right? Like that's what happens with age. You just lose the ability. It's like, oh, well, I'm just going to flip this switch and suddenly just run faster.
Or I'm going to flip this switch because this young brother thinks he's better than me. Oh, my God, my hamstring hurts. I got to run the locker room.
I mean, if you look
immediately. If you don't know who that is,
what they did to him.
That was one Steph Curry. Steph Curry was like, oh, I got Anthony Edwards. We about to win game 1 in his own building. My God, my hamstring hurts. Because that's what it's like.
There was, in a 3-game stretch, in late October and early November, Travis Kelce had 40 targets in 3 games.
Against the Buccaneers, they were like, hey, bro, you are our only receiver. You're our only hope. Yeah. And it's going to overtime. Hey, we're going to ride the back of checks notes, past his prime Travis Kelce and past his prime Kareem Hunt, and we're still going to win.
Yeah, and they've still managed it in overtime. And so I think so much hinges on the receivers and that left side of the offensive line, because if the receivers are healthy, they have so much more speed on the field next to them and developed speed, right? Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, and Rashee Rice have never played a game together. Their skill sets complement each other pretty well, although there's a little bit of overlap.
Yep.
But there's enough there that you can get away with those being your 3 guys and not needing Juju to take, Andy, you do not need Juju Smith-Schuster to take 65% of the snaps. You don't. Now, no one hopes more than me that you would see like this, Juju refined his 2022 form. That'd be amazing, but you don't need to do it.
Please.
There would be, in theory,
also
a ton of.
Hey, Juju would like to walk when he's 40 as well.
Yeah. Well, and poor Juju, he's like 29. So I would just say,
living a great life, by the way. Living a great life.
Yeah,
but
he's enjoying
Juju
himself.
is taking so many snaps for Mike Tomlin and Andy Reid. Who, buddy? Ice those knees up every day.
And so I see Kelce potentially having a statistically better year this year if the receivers are healthy. It's just he was never someone that was dependent on the surroundings to get his in the past. And that's probably where we're at. So let's say he, has an 1,100-yard season because, Worthy's more of a deep threat this year. Brown is stretching out the intermediate points of the field, blah, 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 blah. And Rice is like, of course, taking up those 10 targets a game that's over the middle of the field, getting abused and, getting hit, trying to run it. Because Rice is young. He's a young guy.
Coming off of knee surgery,
That's
Seth.
a solid point. there's an opportunity there for Kelce to not have defenses focusing on him as the primary, and maybe at times, depending on Worthy's development, even the secondary. Wouldn't that be something? For the first time in Kelce's career, he wouldn't be one of the top 2 guys out there occasionally. If that happens, you could see a career renaissance statistically, at least. If they win the Super Bowl, though, I just don't see it. I don't see him sticking around another year. But if he has a career renaissance, right, the problem there is like, well, gosh, that was fun. I mean, that's why no one really wants to leave until the wheels really fall off, right? Because if your last memory is a good one, it's hard to stay away. So
but
I'm really curious about it.
But again, this is why I wanted to bring this up, ladies and gentlemen. He understands how much his voice matters and the weight it carries in that building, in the organization, all those things. For his teammates specifically, it's been him and Andy. Think about that. Since 2013, it's been him and Andy and nobody else. It's unbelievable.
That is crazy.
And yet, you could argue, say, look, he has a renaissance season, doesn't have to deal with a major injury. The wheels don't completely fall off. They play well. Holy smokes, they won the Super Bowl again. Hey, buddy. That spotlight over there, not getting hit by a safety, is a lot bigger than that one if you stay in the league.
Right.
So every season gets a little bit more interesting, fascinating, compelling in a way that no other football player in America that doesn't play quarterback kind of experiences. It's going to be fascinating because he's doing a beautiful job hedging and finding the middle ground, Seth, but also, man, does he love the spotlight. And yeah, let's see how good he is in Happy Gilmore too. Because if he's good, that sunlight, my God, it's beaming upon me, and it's the furthest it's ever been from football. I mean, he'll always be tied to football, of course. Him and his brother will always be together. You know, obviously his brother works for ESPN at the moment, and you know, Amazon's not gonna go anywhere anytime soon,
right?
So,
and
everybody,
this is kind of unprecedented for a player. This isn't like almost no player other than like say like a Tom Brady, like you said, certain quarterbacks have achieved this level of fame and some of the opportunities that he and Jason have kind of earned for themselves outside the sport. And there's also the fact, and this is something like it's a reason I really want to hammer this home for Chiefs fans, and we've talked about it for as long as we have, is that it's really easy to get caught up in the moment and then kind of miss the moment once it's gone. But you have to understand, you were talking about one of the greatest football players to ever live. We've got one more year left for sure. And it's really worth analyzing because once it's over, it's over. You don't step in the same river twice and all that fun stuff. So I'm really intrigued by all of it because I've just watched some really great players come and go. And then suddenly you're like, man, there's not a lot I wouldn't give to watch Tom Bahali pull off that rip move one more time, or to watch Derek Johnson just materialize in the background, or of course watch Jamal Charles sprint away, watch Willie Rofe and Will Shields pancake someone, watch Priest just hesitate at the line and then burst through. Those are things that you really miss as you're looking at each season in purely terms of wins and losses, which is how it's going to be.
Right.
You can miss those trees. So that's just at least worth noting all this with Kelce. This is the first time he's actually been like, hey guys, I might play. Like I'm not dying. Like I might come back. So that's at least interesting. It's worth noting. None of it's going to affect the offense as much as whether or not Kingsley and Simmons playing are good, though. Because that's like the story of the offseason. That's it. Offensive line gets fixed. You're seeing much more of a 2022 offense at least than what you've seen in 23 and 24.
Yeah, with the potential to be perhaps even more balanced or as balanced as the 22 offense was.
Right.
The best thing is we won't know until Brazil. That's the beauty in all this, kids.
Well, we won't know until real football.
Yeah.
And when does real football start, Nathaniel?
Usually Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Against the Cowboys in a primetime game where we can't see our families.
My God, that's going to break records, though.
We can't. Oh, of course.
The NFL is going to have those viewership numbers ready to go at like 12:01 on Friday. They are going to just be like, it's most watched non-Super Bowl broadcast in history. And they're gonna create a graph that shows the most watched NBA game ever, and they'll have like one of those teeny graphs next to a giant graph. They're just gonna be so mean about it.
Just think if I know this is a little bit far-fetched because I'm projecting. Let's say the Chiefs have 2 losses going into Thanksgiving, and let's say the Cowboys have 3. Oh my God. They'll tell every grandma to get to their television screen. Grandma, put down the turkey. We got to watch this game. But we won't really know. And again, if Micah Parsons is under contract with a new extension by then and is happy to be a member of the Dallas Cowboys and is healthy, who the hell is blocking him?
Nobody. Please, Andy?
Is it Joshua Simmons or is it Jalen Moore? Who the hell's blocking this man?
Yeah. You know what? Jabin Carter, and I know we're winding down. We got to get in under an hour, Nate. So you got to take us out right after this. Okay. Jabin Carter with a terrific idea, and T Swift does the halftime show. NFL.
It's right there.
Call Taylor right there, Swift, baby, and say, what do you want? What do you want to do a halftime show of this Thanksgiving game?
Yeah.
What do you want? Hey, what do you want? You want $10 million?
Yeah, sure.
For half an hour of your time, or not even a half hour. It's a normal game. It's 2 songs, Taylor.
It's like 8 minutes. Hey, do a little metal, melody. Get a little reprise this, reprise that, da. Hey, bring all your friends out too. What's his name? Post Malone? Sure, I don't care.
Offer her 0.01% of the Chiefs.
You want Selena Gomez? Fine.
It would just be funny. I just want to see an NFL game get like 100 million views just to watch what they would do and how. I mean, it would be the most condescending tweets about every other league. It would be so passive aggressive. It would be so much fun, and I enjoy stuff like that. But we just need everyone to stay healthy to do it.
Right. We need and then we'd have 48 hours of post game talk of. Did you see Travis Kelce come out before his teammates to watch his girlfriend perform at halftime?
Oh,
what does that say about his leadership ability?
Right. Oh, my goodness. Nate, you've got 1 minute and 50 seconds. You do it underneath that, and we've done it in under an hour, and then everyone will know Josh is the problem.
Yep, exactly. So, look, it's interesting enough, Seth and Tucker, that we got some interesting news today. From one Joshua Briscoe, somewhere in Florida, somewhere under the sun. Guys, I'm going to read a text that I normally wouldn't read. And I quote, Nate, I just ran into Matt, girlfriend Kathy, who said you gave a shout out to them after the Bengals game a while back. I believe that was the 2022 season where Patrick Mahomes, after losing to the Bengals in Cincinnati, behind a closed door, not on camera, per Netflix, said fuck really loud after losing. So, back to Josh's message. Quote, Matt is a diehard listener, and now they're married, he and Kathy.
Aww.
So shout out to them, and the shout out bless them. Guys, our podcast is too silly. Dang it, do I love the fact that there are listeners out there who are so kind that they saw Joshua Briscoe and told him, your podcast is the reason we got married. Nothing else. Nothing more. And you know what, Matt? You know what, Kathy? You're welcome. God bless you, because y'all blessed us.